Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cypher Guide series. It's been a minute since I last uploaded and I thought, why not come back with a Cypher Guide on Sunset? For those of you guys who haven't seen this series before, this guide is going to showcase first round buys, defense setups for both A and B, as well as how to attack on both of those sites. But without further ado, let's get into it. So for first round buys with Cypher on Sunset, on attack side I recommend the very default buy of a tripwire and a cage along with a ghost or a frenzy. You get to pick, but I personally prefer a frenzy. But once you get to defense, you get a little bit more of a unique buy, and in my opinion it really depends on what site you want to guard. So if you want to guard B site, I recommend this same buy you did on attack being a frenzy or a ghost along with a tripwire and a cage. But if you decide to guard A site, I actually recommend getting all of your utility along with a classic, as there is multiple entry points the enemies can be pushing from. So having multiple trips to watch both of the angles can help you get early info and even rack you up some easy kills. I wanted to start out defense side with my personal favorite one-way being the B main one-way. Starting out with the camera, you want to go into this corner like this and do a jump throw until you get a cam something like this. This cam allows you to see into the entrance of B main and when they're pushing out, which is some really great info for this one-way. Beginning with the one-way itself, you want to get into this corner as much as you can and crouch, and then put your crosshair right on this line right here and throw. And you should get a cage something like that. You want to place a trip something like this so that you know when to activate the one-way. And then just in case they decide to push mid and flank around, you want to be prepared for that with a tripwire as well and place something like this. So the way this actually works, you want to be playing this back here. And when you notice the enemies are pushing up or getting close to your tripwires, you activate your cage and get yourself a bunch of free kills. So continuing with the one-ways, this is actually a double one-way. Starting out with the camera, you want to place a cam something like this. This cam allows you to see into market as well as when they're pushing out a B main and the entrance of it as well, which is really useful. This cam may get broken, but it'll give you the info you need for the one-ways. Beginning with the B main one-way, you want to begin by placing a tripwire something like this. This will give you earlier info than the last tripwire, which is exactly what you're going to want. Then you're going to want to go underneath this window, and you're going to want to throw a cage something like this. Then you want to go over to mid for the second part of the one-way. And before you do that, you want to place a trip something like this so that they can't get past. Then you want to go in between these pipes and run into it. And then you want to aim your crosshair. If you see this pipe right here, you want to aim about halfway in between something like this and throw your cage. And you should have a cage something like that. It takes some practice, but you'll get used to it pretty fast. So the way this actually works, if you notice they're pushing out a B main or about to hit your tripwire, you activate this cage and you can get yourself some easy kills. If you notice they're about to hit your trip or they hit your trip mid, you activate this cage and you have a really nice one-way. But one key thing to note is that do not peek it from this side, since this actually gives the enemy a peeker's advantage. If you're not feeling the one-ways and you want to go more into tripwire setups, I got you. Beginning with the camera, you want to place a cam above B main like this. And this cam will allow you to see when the enemies push out of B main, and it will even allow you to hear when the enemies are running into B main. It even gives you a little bit of a view into market as well, but that's not the point. Beginning with the tripwires themselves, you want to place a trip like this, as well as another trip right here. The purpose of these trips is actually because of the cages, and you want to throw a cage right there, as well as right here, so that the enemies will not know which cage you're shooting from. So when you notice the enemies are actually pushing out of B main, when they see these cages up, they're much more likely to run in to the both of your trips, just in case they happen to push over here, or they're kind of worried and they push like this. But the way you're actually going to be playing this yourself, you're going to want to throw both those cages and you're going to be playing back here. So when you notice they're actually pushing out, you activate both your cages and then kill anyone who hits your trips. And they won't know where you're shooting from. So if you begin to notice that the enemies are getting pretty aggressive on B site and pushing backside a lot, this is the setup for you. Beginning with the camera, you're going to want to start out with the cam I showed in the first round, being this one, being the jump throw right here, which allows you to see into B main when they're pushing out, as well as into mid, which is going to be pretty useful since you're not going to actually put any trips or anything mid this round. Starting out with the first tripwire, you're going to want to place a trip right here, which is really useful since it's only breakable from this side right here and not really breakable from here. Then you're going to want to throw a cage on top of it like that. For the second tripwire, you want to place a trip right here, just in case the enemies decide to push up over here and try to jump up here. And then for the cage for this one, you're going to want to go and place it in between this diamond and this line right here, just so that the enemies can't see you when you peek out from this corner. You're going to want to play this in between the pillars, and if you notice they're pushing out over here first, you're going to activate this cage and kill anyone who hits your trip. If you notice they're pushing out of this side now first, you activate this cage and kill anyone who hits this trip. And the nice thing about this setup is if before the cage falls, you can freely back up and play retake with your team. While B side is definitely really strong for Cypher, A side is also strong as well. Beginning with the camera for this one, you actually want to go into this corner as close as you can to the corner without falling off and do a jump throw until you get a cam something like this, which allows you to see when the enemies are pushing from either side, which is exactly what you're going to want. For the first tripwire, you're going to want to place a trip right here, which tells you when the enemies are pushing onto site itself from this side. For the second trip, you actually want to place a trip like this, and then you want to throw cages on both sides of this crate right here. So the way this is actually going to work, when you notice the enemies are pushing out of this side or A main, you can actually activate both your cages and kill anyone who hits either of your tripwires. So as you are going to quickly tell, I'm going to be using the same camera for a lot of these setups since this is easily his strongest cam on this site. And this one is no different. So you're going to want to do the same camera, but then going to the tripwires themselves, you're going to want to place a trip against this crate like this. And then a second tripwire on the stairs like this. So the way you're actually going to want to play this, you're going to want to put a cage right here as well. And then you're going to want to play this back here. When you notice the enemies are pushing out of here and getting close to your tripwires, you're going to want to activate this cage and kill anyone who hits your trips. And you can even wall bang the box to kill the person who hits your other trip. This is probably the only setup I'm going to showcase that actually uses a different camera. And this one uses a cam that goes up here like this. This cam lets you see into A main and when they're pushing up from A main. And this is good since you're going to specifically be watching A main with this one way. For the one way itself, you're going to want to, if you see these papers right here, you're going to want to go in between this line right here and run into it. And then you're going to want to aim your crosshair halfway in between this line like this and throw. For the tripwires that you're going to want to place to know when you're going to have to activate your one way, you're going to want to place a trip right here. And then just so you know if the enemies are pushing out from the other side, you're going to want to place a trip right here. I recommend placing it so that it's only breakable from one side instead of it being breakable from both. So going back to the actual setup itself and not just an info trip, you're going to want to play this behind this box like this. And when you see the enemy's head on A main, you want to activate this one way, or you could wait for the tripwire. Either works. And you can kill anyone with this one way. So this last setup I know on A side actually uses a different camera as well, and funnily enough goes right next to this camera right here. You're gonna want to place a cam like this, which allows you to see when they're pushing into A main, as well as more specifically when they're pushing out of elbow, which is exactly what you're gonna want. So this is actually a one-way, and you're gonna want to go underneath elbow right here and just throw a cage. Very simple, like this. You're gonna want to pair up this one-way with a tripwire close to the stairs, but not on the stairs so it isn't jumpable. And then you're gonna want to pair that up with another trip right here, just so you know if they're pushing up towards you. You're gonna be wanting to play this behind this box right here. And then when you notice the enemies are about to hit your trip, or they end up hitting your trip, you activate this cage. And anyone in this one-way is an easy kill for you. But you actually want to make sure that the enemies are in this cage, because otherwise they'll get an advantage from back there.
Here.
So when attacking B main, the flank trip I recommend you place is right here. But you're going to want to make sure it isn't jumpable or crouchable, so you're going to want to place it at head level while crouching. One key thing to note as well, if you think the enemies are going to get aggressive right away B main, or you have a little like slight idea that they might do it, at the start of the round you can place a cam right here, and this cam allows you to see if anyone tries to sneak behind the box right away, or if the enemies are just getting aggressive in general. But if you don't have to place this cam, or you don't think they're gonna get aggressive, don't place it, since it saves you a cooldown. But when you get over here, if you still have your camera, you want to place it on this palm tree right here, and this allows you to see if anyone's hiding in this corner, or if anyone's peeking B market right away. But when you actually start pushing up, I recommend throwing a cage right here, so that when you push up, your teammates have one less angle to watch, and you can just pay attention to those angles without worrying about that. So when you're actually pushing A site, the flank trip I recommend is right next to the barrier here, and make sure it isn't jumpable or crouchable. When the round actually starts though, I recommend you do a jump throw right here and place your cam, since it gives your teammates early info on if anyone's trying to get a pick right away and back up or something like that, or if the enemies are just getting aggressive in general. But when you actually begin to push up, usually I like to push the side that I placed this cam on, since it tells me what I'm gonna peek into right away, or if anyone's peeking link, or if anyone's close main, right? And then when I get over here, I usually throw a cage so that the enemies can't really peek me very well, and it helps me and my teammates get the site in a much easier way. One more thing I do too, I usually place a cage here once I get closer up, since it allows my teammates to have a safer entry and just makes it a lot easier for my teammates. I wanted to start off a little spicy and showcase my B main one-way that is going to rack you up a lot of easy kills. Beginning with the camera, you want to go into this corner right here and do a jump throw until you get a cam, something like this. This is not the cam. This palm tree cam allows you to see if anyone's hiding in this corner right here, or if anyone's peeking you B market right away. So once you actually begin to push up though, I recommend throwing a cage right here if it doesn't bounce. So this last setup I have actually uses a different camera as well, and it actually, funnily enough, goes next to this camera right here. This cam allows you to see... Oh, I didn't place it correct. Oh, wow. Before the video ends, I want to thank you all for 1,000 subscribers, even when I wasn't uploading for about a month or two. I'm back and I'm ready to get a bunch of good videos out, and I hope you guys are ready for it. But for right now, I hope you guys enjoyed these setups. See ya.